Kevin, can you hear us?
Hi, Kevin. This is Helena. Good. How are you doing? Am I talking good? No, no camera for Helena. I'm camera shy. Right. Okay, the mic is in front of me. How is that? Okay, very good. Okay, great. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. Right button.
Now I want to be right.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you.
Test, test, test. Test 1, 2.
Good morning. Good morning, Kevin. How you doing today? Nice to hear you. Nice to see you. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. My thank you, sir.
There's no mute button on here. But if you're speaking on speaker, like it might. Got it. I have a question. I'm in my office. I see the phone ringing, okay? John Jones is calling. I need to pick up the phone so that I can dial my own call separate of John Jones' call. Otherwise, once I pick up, I get like a house phone. It picks up all irrespective of the fact that somebody's calling.
Thank you. I will correct that right now.
So, all right, inviting all legislators to the chambers so that we can start committees.
Hello? I'm in on the phone. Can you hear me on the phone? Yeah, Vinnie Muscarella. Can you hear me when I shut this off? Okay, what about now? Can you hear me when I mute my phone? If I talk like... Can you hear me now? Okay, how do I mute my phone? Oh, okay. No. I'm right. Hold on.
I'm going to call the Rules Committee to order and ask Legislator Schaefer to lead us in the pledge, and please remain standing for a moment of silence afterwards.
Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liz Muller passed away over the weekend. She's the mother of Bill Muller, so counsel here, former clerk to the legislature. So I'd like you to all keep her and the family in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Okay, Mike, could you call the roll for the Rules Committee?
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Rules Committee roll call. Legislator Sheila Bino.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator Delia DeRigi Witten. Ranking Member Kavan Abrahams. Legislator Laura Schaefer. Legislator Stephen Rhodes. Vice Chairman Howard Copel. Chairman Richard Nicolello.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you.
Legislator Salages, I'm here.
Okay. As we always do, we're starting with the contracts portion of the rules agenda, and I'm going to call those contracts together, and we'll be considering them individually. A21, A2 of 2021, A47, A49. Resolutions authorizing the Commissioner of Shared Services to award and execute a purchase order or blanket purchase orders between the county and Advanced Measurement Technology, Inc., Sprague Operating Resources, Alemco Services, Inc. E141, E142, E143, E144, E145. These are resolutions authorizing the county executive to execute personal services agreements or amendments to personal services agreements between the county and DRC Emergency Services, Ashbrit, Inc., Capital Resource Management, Aetna Life Insurance Company, and Cameron Engineering. Those items are moved by Legislator Ford, seconded by...
I'm not on rules.
Oh, you're not, okay. Moved by...
Thankful I'm not.
I know. Moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Minority Leader Abraham. So they're all before us now. Let's start off with the Police Department contract, which is A2.
Good afternoon, William Field, Inspector with the Police Department. Item A2, 2021, is to award and authorize a purchase order for the Detective XN Radiation Identifier from Advanced Measurement Technology Incorporated. This solicitation was posted in Newsday and posted on the Nassau County Bid Solicitation Board. The lowest responsible bidder meeting specifications was Advanced Measurement Technology Incorporated. The maximum amount authorized under this is $170,838.88. It's grant funded. This is a system used to detect radiation from a source that we may not know, so that we can best respond to it and identify what it is, make sure the situation can be resolved in as safe as way as possible.
Yeah.
Any questions?
So, just because the seller's attorney asked me,
Let's
close
this
it.
question.
Is that when the equipment is when the equipment's procured? Is that something that's shared with the fire service as well, or is this?
That's a good question. It's used by our emergency services, so it's something we could definitely let them know that we have.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Inspector.
And where is that person? The it's that.
The next contracts are with the Department of Public Works.
Good afternoon, Ken Arnold, Public Works. E47 is a service blanket order to supply gasoline, both regular and premium, to various county facilities. There were 3 bids, and Sprague Operating Resources was the lowest responsible bidder.
Any questions? No.
You hear that
Next one, A49.
So E49 is a blanket order contract for the maintenance and repair of transformation services and high voltage electric. We had 1 bidder, Alemco, as the lowest responsible bidder.
Is this something that the Department of Public Works ordinarily does? This type of...
No, we don't do high voltage, and actually Alemco, the problem we had in 1 West Street, that's that contract that's actually repairing that.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? No, why don't we take the next 2 together because they're similar. E141, E142.
So E141 and 142 are disaster management services. These are the contracts that we'll use if we had a tropical or any type of other event that we had an emergency and required assistance for debris removal, both vegetative and light debris. We put out a solicitation. We had 6 proposals. DRC and Ashbrook were the two highest technically ranked, with the exception of Crowder Gulf. Crowder Gulf did not meet our payment prevailing wage rate schedule, so they were non-responsive.
So Ken, this has nothing to do with you, but we had requested from the Inspector General a review of the contracts, and we're still awaiting that review. But I understand, obviously, we are in the heightened season where this type of debris removal is going to be required. I'm kind of asking a question until I already know the response. I mean, obviously, if this contract was delayed, or this on-call approval was delayed, it limits your ability to actually.
Well, if we had, if you want to table it to get that information back, I'm okay with that. If we had an emergency, we would issue the work, and then we would just like notify you. Since we did the solicitation, we could do it that way.
I believe is she supposed to get the response today? Is she supposed to get? I don't know.
DRC, I think I understand you have everything. I think Ashbrook, there's one piece you're missing.
Ashbrook is the one, yeah. Is she on the call? I don't think so. I don't see her initials.
Yeah, my understanding, one of the questions is about termination of employees.
I'm here, Minority Leader.
Oh, hi, Jody. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Jody Franzese, Office of the Inspector General. If I could just clear it up briefly. Regarding 142-21, the vendor hasn't provided specifics about canceled contracts. That's what we're waiting on. DRC is good to go, but we still haven't received that information that we requested from Ashbrook.
And we reached out to Ashbrook again this morning and asked for that list, and if it didn't exist, just to tell us it doesn't exist.
Okay.
We have a meeting on the 25th, I believe, and other meetings before that, so if necessary, we can
That's fine.
throw a rules committee on.
And just to be clear, sorry, Presiding Officer, not to cut you off, but just to be clear, Ken, so if there was something that occurred between now and the next time we'll be able to meet, you'll still be able to meet your obligation to have debris removal?
When we had Henry coming up this way, we reached out to both the firms, and we were ready to utilize Ashbrook for the emergency, but we canceled them because the storm, veered off. So if we had to do some working with the procurement office declaring emergency, we could utilize these contracts and their procurement.
Okay. Just wanted to double check that. Okay. Thank you.
Robert Cleary, Chief Procurement and Compliance Officer. I just want to clarify one thing that Ken just said. Ashbrook did respond very recently that they don't maintain a list of canceled contracts. That is the latest information that we received. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to be taken by the Office of the Inspector General.
Okay. No, I agree.
Is it, can you just explain the difference between the two contracts? Like, is it just that you want two companies, or are there different tasks?
We want multiple companies because if a storm is coming, various municipalities reach out to vendors, and we want to have the ability to reach out to multiple vendors to secure crews. If the storm was like Sandy, where we had to go back and get additional crews, we want to know that there's a pool of companies that we could utilize.
Okay, but they pretty much do the same type of work.
Yes.
Legislator Schaefer.
Hi, Commissioner. Just a quick question. What happened with Crowder Gulf? Weren't they the number one ranked?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with what the issue we went through during Sandy, which is prevailing wage rates, we required that proof of their salary structures, and some firms would not give that information to us.
Okay, so they were one of those firms?
Yes.
Okay. Did they change their mind at any point and say, oh, we will do it? And
No.
No?
They just
Okay.
asked us to deem them responsive.
Okay, great, thank you.
As to E142, do we have a motion to table? Moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell. All in favor of tabling E142 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The item is tabled. So we have E141. My notes indicate that You had recently submitted 3 disaster relief management contracts, and on September 13th, the Rules Committee passed 2 of those contracts. Apparently, the backup said that the administration would be awarding disaster relief management contracts to 3 vendors. And now it appears that you're
Different contracts.
It's different contracts.
Yeah, so those 3 are monitoring contracts, where these are actually management, so what, is they worded, they're kind of weird how they're worded. The monitoring supplies the department with resources to help us oversee the operations and you know, count trucks, you know, make sure we get our reimbursements. The management is actually the physical removal of the material.
And this is management?
This is management. These 2 are management.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Any other questions for Ken on this contract? Nope. All right, so the last one you have is E-145.
Yes, so, excuse me. E-145 is a contract amendment for Cameron Engineering. It is retroactive. It's for additional $109,000, an extension of time till this month. This is associated with our Park and Beach GOSER project. While we were designing the project, we ran into a fiscal issue where we had to divide the project into 2 pieces to keep it on schedule. And so we end up bidding only phase 1, phase 2. We're chasing grant money as we speak. But to keep the project on schedule, we directed Cameron to make some changes in design to break it into 2 pieces, and also to add some traffic signal equipment that was in disrepair in the same corridor. We wanted to make sure we got it taken care of at the same time.
Any questions? Nope. All right, thank you, Ken. Treasurer's Office, E-143.
Good afternoon, Lisa Nella, Deputy County Treasurer. This is an amendment to exercise the final renewal option for 1 year for debt collection services. This is for the collection of ambulance billings for individuals whose insurance paid them directly and kept the insurance proceeds.
Okay, all right, very good. Any questions on this contract? No, thank you.
Thank you.
And the last one we have, contract we have is with Human Resources, E-144.
Good afternoon, Marissa Howard, Director of Human Resources. Item E-14421 is a request to approve the renewal of the Aetna Health Insurance contract for the 2021 calendar year. This renewal will allow the county to continue to provide health insurance benefits to county employees through December 2021. This plan was an option for all employees hired after April 2014. With 2022 around the corner, the county has been working to find a replacement to the health insurance Aetna plan. Earlier this year, the county issued an RFQ to find a replacement health insurance plan. A committee comprised of the county and union representatives has been working regularly to review vendor proposals, and working together have selected a vendor. The contract for the replacement plan will be submitted to your review for approval in the coming weeks.
Have there been any changes to this contract over the course of that time, from 2014 to the present?
There have not.
Okay. Do the employees have to pay premiums toward this contract or no?
Currently for the 2021 calendar year, the Aetna rates did exceed 85%, so employees are paying for the delta.
Any other questions?
So the delay was primarily because Aetna didn't complete the paperwork, is that correct?
The delay for submission of this was due to COVID. The disclosures expired, and we had to execute an amendment to the contract, which they took a little bit to get back to us.
The coverage is still available for the employees that selected
It
Aetna?
is, yes, correct, through the remainder of the year.
So do you think you're going to be eliminating Aetna going forward, or are you just going to see?
The committee has made a selection.
Okay.
It could result in Aetna being replaced with a new vendor.
Okay.
Do you know about how many, percentage-wise, of our workforce take advantage of this option?
Current enrollment, there's about 2,600 employees.
Out of the total workforce?
Correct.
Any other questions? No. Okay. right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Call all those items excluding E143 for a vote. That's A2, A47, A49, E141, E145, E143, E144. Any further debate or discussion? Any public comment on these contracts? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. We're going to put Rules Committee in recess, and which one? Public Safety is next.
Good afternoon. At this time, I'm going to call the Public Safety Committee to order. Okay, well, a lot of people are on.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, can you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Public Service Committee roll call. Legislator Debbie Muley.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator Sheila Bino.
Here.
Thank you. Ranking Member Delia Dirigi-Witten. Legislator John Ferretti.
Here.
Legislator Vincent Muscarella. Vincent Muscarella. Okay, we'll go back to him. Vice Chairman Stephen Rhodes. Chairwoman Denise Ford. We have a quorum, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. There are two items on the agenda today, which are clerk item numbers 355-21 and 367-21. Clerk item number 355-21 is an ordinance supplemental to an appropriation ordinance in connection with the district attorney. May I have a motion? Moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Ferretti. Okay, this item is before us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Jeffrey Stein from the DA's office. The item before you is a supplemental appropriation to appropriate $1,530,685.58 awarded to the DA's office by the U.S. Justice Department Office for Victims of Crime, passed through the New York State Office of Victim Services. We request your approval to appropriate these funds.
Thank you. I just have a question. I know that, excellent job, by the way, you know, and it is something that's, you know, very important. But in the backup, you cited like cases that were tried or that you handled, but from like 2016 and 2017. What are the recent cases? I mean, how many have you handled, or the district court have handled through this office, say in like 2020 or even 2021?
I don't have the information with me, but I can get that to you.
Okay, maybe before the full ledge. That would be great. It was just something that sort of caught my eye, and I was just curious about it. But thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chairman, I'll just
Go ahead.
note, I received a text message from Legislator Muscarella. He's on, but for some reason, he can't be heard.
Okay. All right, Vinny. We got it. we have you in. I'll speak for you. Thank you very much, Jeff. Really appreciate this. Okay, all those, any public comment? No? Okay, all those in favor of passing this item, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The item passes unanimously. Clerk, item number 36721 is an ordinance supplemental to an appropriation ordinance in connection with the Correctional Center. May I have a motion? Moved by Legislator D. Witten, seconded by Legislator Rhodes. The item is before us. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon, legislators. Narda Hall, Sheriff's Department. Item 367-21 is for $69,326 received from the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency, deposited with the County Treasurer. The amount and timing of receipt of these funds is dependent upon the amount of seizure as well as the completion of pending investigations and convictions. The funds will be used towards purchases of law enforcement equipment in compliance with the Drug Enforcement Agency guideline.
Any debate or discussion? Any public comment? I see none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of passing this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. Thank you. And this item passes unanimously. Thank you. There is no other business before this committee. May I have a motion to adjourn? So moved by Legislator Ferretti, second by Legislator Rhodes. All in favor? And so, and Vinny. He's the only opposition to it. He wants to stay. All those in favor? All right, the committee is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We're now up. Towns and Villages will be the next committee. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'll call the Towns and Villages and Cities Committee to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Town, Village, and Committee and City Committees, roll call. Legislator Delia DeRigi Witten. Legislator Ellen Birnbaum. Ranking Member Josh Lafazan.
Here.
Thank you, Josh. Legislator Vincent Muscarella. Legislator James Kennedy. Vice Chairman Laura Schaefer.
Here.
Chairman C. William Gaylord III.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. There's one item on the addendum today, which is clerk item number 190-21. May I have a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Legislator Kennedy, seconded by Legislator Birnbaum. The rules are suspended. Clerk item 368-21 is an ordinance amending ordinance 54-2021, implementing the local government assistance program in Nassau County. May I have a motion? All right, so moved by Legislator Schaefer, seconded by Legislator DeRigi Witten. All right, the item is before us. Is there anybody from the administration to speak about this?
Good afternoon, Andy Persick, Office of Management and Budget. The item before you is just, we got new census data from the original legislation that we passed, and this is just to amend that. This census data came out very late, so when we originally did the ordinance, it wasn't there. So this is just amending that that ordinance.
Okay, thanks, Andy. And this is the 2020 census data you're talking about?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. And that data has been shared with the minority and the majority?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Is there any debate or discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor of passing this item, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The item passes unanimously. There being no other business in front of this committee, may I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Legislator Schaefer, seconded by Legislator Lafazan. Okay, all those in favor? Committee is now adjourned. Followed by Public Works. And I believe I'm the chairman on that one. Acting chairman. Okay, at this time I'll call the Public Works Committee to order. I'll note for the record that I'm sitting in as the chairman of the committee today, although Legislator Muscarella is present via Teams, virtually. So I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, sir. Public Works and Park Committee roll call. Legislator Carrie Salage. Legislator Arnold Drucker.
Here.
Thank you. Ranking Member Sheila Bino.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator James Kennedy. Legislator Laura Schaefer. Legislator Vincent Muscarella. Vincent? Okay. And Vice Chairman C. William Gable III. We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Clerk, item number 362-21 is a resolution approving a federal aid project administered by the New York State Department of Transportation and authorizing the County of Nassau to participate in the non-federal share of the cost of construction and in the cost of construction supervision and inspection of the project, and authorizing the County Executive of the County of Nassau to execute an agreement on behalf of the county with the New York State Department of Transportation for the performance of such work for the project and for participation by the county in the non-federal share of the cost of this project, identified as PIN 0761.26 for the Nassau County Traffic Signal System Operations Phase 6. May I have a motion? Moved by Legislator Muscarella, seconded by Legislator Bino. This item is before us. I see we have Commissioner Arnold from the Department of Public Works to speak about this item. Sir, all yours.
Good afternoon. So this item, as stated, is a master agreement with New York State DOT. Allows us to accept funds over a 3-year period associated with our management of our traffic management system, specifically our field operations.
All right. Any debate or discussion? Any public comment? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. There is no other business in front of this committee. May I have a motion to adjourn? So moved by Legislator Drucker, seconded by Legislator Kennedy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The committee is now adjourned. Will be followed by Finance.
Fast today. Okay. Members of the committee, please join me. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll read the roll call.
Yes, please, would you so?
Thank you. Legislator Joshua Lafazan.
Here.
Josh Lafazan, thank you. Legislator Arnold Drucker.
Here.
Ranking Member Ellen Birnbaum.
Here.
Legislator Rosemarie Walker.
Here.
Legislator Thomas McKevitt.
Here.
Vice Chairman Vincent Muscarella. And Chairman Howard Copel.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start out with a motion to suspend the rules, and that motion is made by Ms. Walker, seconded by Ms. Birnbaum. And that's because we have some items on an addendum. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please so indicate. Say aye.
Any opposed? The rules
Aye.
are suspended. Thank you. We have several items relating to the budget, and what we're going to do is simply tee those up because we still have a hearing coming up on Wednesday, and we're going to have a full legislative discussion coming up on that in a couple of weeks. So, without objection, I hope, we will call 351, 352, 353, and 354. All those in favor of those items, please so indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Aye. Those items pass unanimously. Thank you. I didn't have a motion on that. Okay. So moved by Legislator Walker. Thank you. And seconded by Legislator Drucker. Once again, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay. We have several items on the consent calendar. Those would be numbers 355, 362, and 367. Motion by Mr. McKevitt, seconded by Mr. Lafazan. All those in favor of those three items, please so indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Those items are unanimous. Again, thank you. Number 363 is authorizing a grant agreement between Parks and Recreation and the Glen Cove Downtown District Management. Motion by Ms. Walker, seconded by Ms. Birnbaum.
Good afternoon, Tori Queso with the Parks Department. This is a hotel motel tax grant to support the Glen Cove Downtown Sound Concert Series in the amount of $10,000 to the Glen Cove Downtown, Glen Cove Downtown District Management Association.
You got that out, did you? Okay. All right. We have any questions or discussions? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that item is unanimous. Thank you. Number 364 authorizes transfers of appropriation. That motion is made by Mr. Muscarella, seconded by Mr. Drucker. Anybody here on 364? Okay.
Good afternoon, Larry Nedelka from the Board of Elections. This is a board transfer from our primary fund to our general election fund. We're asking for it primarily because of new changes that have come down. We've got certain requirements that we have to fill that were not available to us at the time we prepared the budget from last year. However, because we had a light primary, this money is available to transfer to cover those expenses. And then obviously whatever's left over at the end of the year goes back to the general fund revenues.
How much is this?
So a little over $1.9 million.
Okay. Any questions? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Item is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 365 is supplemental appropriation in connection with Office of Management and Budget. Motion by Ms. Walker, seconded by Mr. Lafazan. Andy?
Good afternoon, Andy Persick, Office of Management and Budget. Item 365 appropriates $2,2054 for Distribution 11 from ILS funding that we received from the state. This is for grant years 1 and 2. They usually come in tranches of 3 years, but this is just the first 2 years for this amount.
How much was that again?
$2,2054.
Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, number 366 is a resolution authorizing transfer of appropriations heretofore made. Motion by Mr. Muscarella, seconded by Ms. Walker.
Good afternoon, Mary Ellen Lorraine, Department of Health. Item 366-21 is a board transfer in the amount of $4,175. It's for one of our New York State Department of Health grant-funded programs, and it's to maximize reimbursement with no impact on the budget.
Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
Thank
That
you.
item is unanimous. Thank you. Now, on the addendum, number 369 is supplemental with parks.
And there's a motion by Mr. Lafazan, seconded by Mr. Muscarella.
Tori Queso, Department of Parks. So this 369 is a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $163,300 of funds representing the annual amount of fees anticipated to be collected from hotel motel tax, and will cover expenses for fiscal year 2021 in the historic building restoration, and then also $570,000 similarly of funds representing the annual amount of fees anticipated to be collected for hotel motel tax for the fiscal year 2021.
All right, that's just a routine transfer then, I guess. Okay, any questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Number 371 is a supplemental agreement to the New York State Department of Transportation. And that motion is made by Mr. McKevitt and seconded by Ms. Birnbaum.
Good afternoon, William Field, Inspector with the Police Department. Item 371-21 is a grant agreement resolution for the New York State Department of Transportation Construction and Maintenance Grant. It's from the term is January 2022 through the end of 2024. This award provides funding for the Police Department to provide police officer overtime and vehicle usage reimbursement for patrols to protect and make sure that safety of the roads during New York State Department of Transportation construction projects.
All right, any questions? All right, all those in favor of 371, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that item is unanimous. All right, I'm told that I did not mention number 368, which is a consent item. I thought I did. It's a consent item, I'm told, and that motion is made by Mr. Muscarella, seconded by Mr. McKevitt. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Number 372 is our last item, making certain determinations pursuant to SECRA relative to an amendment to a lease between Nassau County as tenant and 89th Jamaica Realty Company as landlord. That motion is by Ms. Walker and seconded by Mr. Lafazan. Anyone here on that lease?
Good afternoon, legislators. Kevin Walsh from the Office of Real Estate Services.
How are you, Kevin?
Good. How are you?
Yeah.
You have before you a amendment or an extension for a lease for our Jamaica bus bays, which service our nice bus system in Jamaica, Queens. It is a one-year extension on a lease that expired to provide a point of pickup for our nice bus in Jamaica, Queens.
So obviously this is not susceptible of bidding or anything like that.
Excuse me?
Obviously this is not something that's susceptible of being bid or anything like that, right?
Correct. It's limited opportunities, and next year we're looking at other alternatives when this expires next year.
What kind of other alternatives might there be?
Excuse me?
Alternatives?
Well, locations. I mean, it's centrally located in the area of the Jamaica train station, so there's limited places where you could have bays to pick up buses, so.
Okay, anyone else have any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? That item is unanimous.
Thank you.
We have no further items. Mr. Muscarella moves to adjourn. Mr. Drucker seconds the motion. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Any opposed? Finance is adjourned. And what's next? Oh, we're back to rules.
Calling the Rules Committee out of recess, and going to call the consent calendar, which are items that just went through other committees. No further debate or discussion is needed at this time on these. So the consent calendar includes 351, 352, 353, 354, 355, 362, 363, 364, 365, 366, 367, 368, 369, 371, 372, and that's it. Moved by legislator DeRigi Witten, seconded by legislator Schaefer. Any debate or discussion on the consent items? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. One item remaining, which is 370, a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the town of North Hempstead and various villages in relation to the Manhasset Bay Protection Committee. I'll move that, seconded by Minority Leader Abrahams, and the items before us.
Good afternoon, Ken Arnold, Public Works. 370 is an IMA with the town of North Hempstead, which is, they administer the contract for the Manhasset Bay Protection Committee, which is the county's a member. This committee works on water quality issues for Manhasset Bay. The committee is important for the county's requirements associated with our stormwater permit, as this committee does a lot of public education outreach and plan development for the future protection.
This agreement had been in place for a number of years, correct?
Yeah, this probably goes back 15, maybe 20 years now.
Alrighty. Any discussion or questions? Good, thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Motion to adjourn. Legislator Rhodes. Seconded by Legislator Schaefer. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Rules Committee is adjourned. So we're going to go into the full legislature now. So why don't we invite all the legislators back in? Okay. That's going to be a couple minutes. we're all here. So I'm going to call the meeting of the legislature to order and ask Mike to read the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll call. Deputy Presiding Officer Howard Copel. Alternate Deputy Presiding Officer Denise Ford. Legislator Sheila Bino.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator Carrier Solage. Okay. Legislator Debbie Muley.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator C. William Gaylord III.
Present.
Legislator Vincent Muscarella.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator Ellen Birnbaum. Legislator Delia DeRigi Witten. Legislator James Kennedy. Thank you. Legislator Thomas McKevitt. Legislator John Ferretti.
Here.
Legislator Laura Schaefer. Legislator Arnold Drucker.
Here.
Legislator Rosemarie Walker. Legislator Josh Lafazan.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator Stephen Rhodes. Minority Leader Kavan Abrahams. Presiding Officer Richard Nicolello.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. First, we'll handle the procedural agenda. We'll call resolution number 28-2021. As to procedure, it's a resolution as to procedure to amend the rules of procedure for the 13th Nassau County Legislature pursuant to the County Government Law of Nassau County. Moved by Legislator DeRigi Witten, seconded by Legislator Ford. This amends our rules with respect to mailing to provide in the event of a emergency or natural disaster in which an immediate response is necessary, that the legislators will have the flexibility to be able to send something out under those extreme circumstances. Any debate or discussion as to this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Now, the other item is the, need a motion to untable ordinance number 86. Motion by Legislator Ford, seconded by Legislator Birnbaum. All in favor of untabling ordinance number 86 signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's untabled and back
Aye.
before the legislature. I know that we have Chief Deputy County Executive who is here remotely. But before we do that, I just want to note for the record that there was legislative public comment submitted by Frederick Mayfield, and we'll provide that to the clerk's office so that it can be made part of the record. Okay. All right. Helena, are you there?
Yes. Thank you, Presiding Officer Nicolello and Minority Leader Abrahams, for inviting me to participate in today's legislative meeting, and of course to support County Executive Curran's Household Assistance Program. I'm pleased to report to you that the program serves two important purposes. First, it provides direct assistance to households, including homeowners and renters. Second, to the extent that we can encourage spending in Nassau County, it will boost our local economy. The $100 million direct assistance program is a large program to administer, there's no question. We are confident in our ability to manage it. I would like to compliment DCE Evelyn Simmis and Commissioner Steve Morelli of OEM. Working with Ev Simmis she has an experienced planning team working with her, led by Sean Sally, Deputy Commissioner at DPW. As you are aware, DPW worked hard throughout a prior federal relief program, the Sandy recovery effort. Also, Commissioner Morelli's team at OEM has been terrific in coordinating the retention of 3 consulting groups to provide assistance. With Adura, Haggerty, and KPMG, we are poised to manage both ARP and HAP effectively and efficiently. Here today, we have outside counsel Jacob German, we have in-house counsel Donald Denyon, and Sean Sally, Deputy Commissioner, and we're very pleased to answer any specific questions you have.
Okay, thank you, Helena. The main focus of my question or questions is, I think, was basically covered in your statement that that you are confident in the ability of the county to manage this program. And so I just want to make sure that that's clear on the record, that the county executive and the administration has confidence that they will be able to administer this program. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
I don't know if you can answer this or others, but is there going to be a telephone number where residents can call with questions?
We have a communications plan to provide frequently asked questions on our website. We have locations that we're going to direct people to. We have not thought that the best approach would be a call center at this time. We want to see if our outreach and media effort can get people to the locations that we've identified, and our whole communications plan will focus on Eisenhower Park, 40 Main Street, at 60 Charles Lindbergh. There'll be a kiosk set up right there, and at 1 West Street. So we believe that we will have a really significant outreach that'll allow people to ask questions and navigate the portal. There is a phone number, that will be attached, but it's not one where we're providing, call-in assistance.
Where would calls to that phone number go?
We're working on a Boost Nassau approach, but we'll rely primarily on recordings. We don't want to tie up, people, just answering the phone. And we're trying to make sure that we, get people to really understand the program. We're going to do some outreach at libraries. We've set up some arrangements to have specific, public information sessions at libraries.
Well, that does give me a concern. I believe there should be a dedicated phone line, and what I envision happening here is that when people aren't able to speak to somebody, they're going to be calling their legislators' offices. There's nothing wrong with that, but this is an administration program, so we are by nature limited in terms of providing people with assistance. And I would strongly encourage the administration to have a dedicated phone line for this and have it live, and have, at least when the initial surge, have someone answering the calls.
Well, we will take that into consideration. That's your request. We don't want people calling legislative offices only to refer the calls to us. We'll see what we can do to get enough resources to answer phone calls and direct people. So we will put that in place. If that's your request and you think that will be of assistance in our outreach, we certainly can do that.
The concern here is not that they call our office, that people are going to do that anyway, but the most effective way for people to get their questions answered is to receive that answer directly from the administration, the people that are administering the program, as opposed to them speaking to an assistant or an aide in our office who's then trying to get that information for the person. We will do that. Eventually, I think that is going to be part of the outcome here. But again, the most effective way to handle this is to have calls go directly to the administration.
We will do that, and we want to have effective materials that we can share with the public.
Thank you. Legislator Ford.
Good afternoon, Deputy County Executive Helena. Thank you very much for being here with us today in regards to this item. Just to follow up with the presiding officer's questions in regard to the dedicated number. If we're not going to have a dedicated number, who would be the liaison that we would be able to work with, so that when our constituents call us, we would be able to speak to somebody directly ourselves, without having to go through different departments and different phone calls ourselves, trying to find answers?
Well, I want to assure you that the presiding officer asked for a dedicated phone number. We'll set one up. But we will arrange for legislators to be able to contact our constituent affairs unit. Katie Horst will set that up with you. If you have specific constituent questions and you want to answer them directly, or you want to make a referral to us, we'll put a system in place for that.
All right, and I know that currently Dr. Regina Williams is running the Boost Nassau program in regard to our businesses and our nonprofits to be able to access funding, to be able to get grants. Will there be somebody who would be the same as her, like that would be able to who is overseeing this program on behalf of the county?
We're going to augment Regina Williams' staff. We're going to add people to it. Regina understands the HAP program, and she will be ready to administer there as well.
So then she will then be taking over the function of also dealing with the $375 that will be distributed to the households?
Yes.
Okay, and then...
We have to increase Regina's staff because we're going to go to additional locations as well.
Okay, because currently I believe she has 7, right? And will there be an opportunity, because I know that they work like normal business hours, like say 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I don't know the exact hours, but will there be opportunities where perhaps they could work after hours so that those who would be seeking to get this $375, if they do work, and if they need to meet or if they want to go to file in person, that they would be able to do so without having to give up their day of work?
Oh, we absolutely agree with that. We think off-hour, contact is extremely important. People can't use work time to sort of sort through questions. So yes, there'll be hours available. We think after hours and some Saturdays as well.
Perfect. That's good to hear that. You had mentioned that the program will be geared to all homeowners and renters. Are you saying that, is it still maintaining that it's, if it's a legal apartment and whoever is in the apartment in a house, that person would be entitled to file for the $375? Or are you saying that, clarifying that if there is somebody who's renting a room inside of a house, will that person be able to put in for the $375 relief?
You ask a very good question. I know that our team has worked closely at that. It's a household program. So you have to have evidence that you are head of the household, or that your name is on a lease and you're making rental payments, or you're the homeowner of record. So the goal is it's a household program, and we will look to make sure that we don't get duplicates by address.
So, all right, so, and then so then they would determine that it has to be head of household. So are you, I guess this is to ensure that somebody's child doesn't file for the $375.
Yes, we have a lot of adult children living at home, and they may be covered by a tax return, they may not be, but they are not likely to be paying rent or have their name on the deed.
Right, and if we don't spend like the $100 million, that's been allocated to this program, and just say for argument's sake, the claims only total like $50 million. Do we have to give that money back, or can that be repurposed? For maybe if we don't want to just do households, maybe we can offer it to people that don't necessarily live in apartments. They may be renting rooms, or they may be staying with relatives, but they still have a job and they have children, that maybe they can access some sort of help.
We can repurpose the funds with the consent of the legislature. We would come back to you with programmatic, modifications, changes, additions, or reallocations. And we would ask, for approval of the ledge. Okay. We do have through, believe it or not, 2026 to continue this direct assistance program in place. That's the federal guideline now, is funding is in place and eligible to be spent through 2026.
All right. Thank you very much.
Legislator Rhodes and Legislator Ferretti.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And good morning, good afternoon, sorry, Deputy County Executive Williams. Thank you for being here. A couple of questions. At our last hearing, the deadline date of October 18th was provided to us. But you've just indicated that there's actually a 2026 deadline by which these funds have to be expended. What was the October 18th deadline?
I'm going to have to defer to Sean Sally. I'm not familiar with a reference to October 18th.
Thank you.
Sean, was there any recollection, or perhaps Legislator Rhodes, if you had any context for how that came up?
I do understand the question. Sean Sally, Deputy Commissioner, Nassau County Department of Public Works. The October 18th deadline was in reference to the first deadline for submitting the list of applicants, or of homeowners, I should say, the 42,000 senior star eligible households. We need to get that file to Chase Bank is doing the check issuance. We need to get that file to Chase by that date for them to be able to submit or to issue those checks.
To issue those checks by 2026?
No. No, they have a rolling schedule. When we get them the file, there's a time between we get them the file and they can actually mail those checks.
But if I can ask, it's a deadline to get the checks out by when? In other words, the October 18th is when we have to get them the list.
Chase Bank.
The only deadline I'm aware of is 2026.
So the earliest, okay, so I did mention at the last meeting the checks that will be automatically mailed to the list of 42,000 odd households that are eligible for Senior Star, Senior Tax Exemption, or LID. The earliest those checks can go out is October 18th. That's Chase's schedule. So between the approval of the appropriation and October 18th, the controller needs to approve that list, and we need to get that list to Chase so that they can mail those checks out. The earliest they can mail those checks out is October 18th. That's their next, issuance deadline.
Oh, so that wasn't a deadline that you were speaking about, because I think that's the impression that we all had. That's actually the time frame. If it was approved today, it's the time frame, how long it would take them to actually issue the checks.
That's the earliest, right? That's the earliest that they can issue those 42,000 checks to eligible households.
So we are correct, though, that the only deadline that there is that the money has to be expended by 2026.
Right. The ARP.
Obviously, we want to get the money out as early as possible, but it has to go out by 2026.
Yes, as far as spending the ARP funds, that's correct. 2026 is the deadline.
And back to, thank you, Mr. Sally, I appreciate that. Deputy County Executive Williams, I know that you mentioned a communications plan, and I think you gave some brief illustrations to the presiding officer during his questioning. Can you go into any more detail as far as how outreach is going to be done to the public so that they're aware of the opportunity to apply for these benefits?
Certainly, we will have a full communication strategy involving our outreach units as well, Minority Affairs, Asian Affairs, Hispanic Affairs. We will have a kiosk at 60 Charles Lindbergh. We will do extensive communications at libraries, and the ability to use our website and push out information about the program. We want to invite everybody to, get their questions answered, get their applications in, and we think it'll be an ongoing process to the extent that our legislative offices as well get out information to constituents. We'll provide you with, a packet of information to be able to use. We want to be careful about any mailings at this point. We're all in agreement about mailings, but as we get into the balance of November, we'll be able to put more information out as well that describes the program for people.
Well, it sounds as though it's a rather targeted approach. This is something that theoretically any resident in Nassau County is available to any resident in Nassau County, correct?
Well, under 500,000 annual income. And as you know, there's, two categories between 169 and 500 with evidence of economic harm. And then below 169 is considered low and moderate. And there's a easier criteria there. But
I
yes,
guess
to answer your question, under 500,000, it's available to anybody who's a resident in Nassau County.
I guess my concern is the fact that the administration's plan is to visit libraries and hold workshops, and to use the Office of Minority Affairs, the Office of Asian American Affairs, the Office of Hispanic Affairs to do targeted outreach. Where is going to be the outreach to the general public?
Well, we will be communicating via the web and social media to ensure people know that if the legislature approves the program today and we're able to get the program out, we will launch our effort to describe the program, and we'll do it within the limits of the mailing restrictions.
Well, is there an actual communications plan now, or is this something that is still in development by the administration?
No, we have a communications plan. I will say that we want to modify it to make sure that we're, announcing events to describe the program, as to, ensure that we're in compliance with the mailing legislation. But the communications plan is a strong one. We think that, as Deputy Commissioner Sean Sally just referenced the seniors, that'll be terrific word of mouth when we get that out. That's our, ability to do that automatically. And we think that will generate, very good buzz about the program.
I'm just concerned about our using word of mouth and social media as a delivery system to get information out to residents. I'm also concerned, to be honest, about what you had mentioned earlier on in your testimony, that there is no plan to have a call center for residents to be able to call to ask their questions. There are going to be numerous questions, I'm sure, about both how to negotiate the portal, as well as issues which we've been asking about essentially since May, whether the $375 checks are taxable, how it is that you're determining eligibility, and forcing people to actually visit the location in Eisenhower Park or show up at a library in person at a workshop, especially since I would anticipate that many of these questions are going to be from seniors that either don't have access to the portal because they don't have access to computers or have difficulty navigating the portal, that you're forcing them to physically appear in a COVID environment as opposed to picking up the telephone. Is there a particular reason why the administration is not having a call-in center?
Let me just clarify on seniors. We don't think we have a concern on seniors because we do have, appropriate databases on Enhanced Star and limited income seniors.
Well, not every senior, not every senior is eligible for that.
Not every senior is, Enhanced Star, but it will certainly cover a first wave of applicants automatically.
Right,
and certainly it will cover, that group that might be more specifically in need because of the income factors that are attached to that eligibility.
But it seems
the presiding officer asked about a centralized phone number with some call center capability. We're going to put that in place. I will say that we were, concerned that it is difficult to answer phone calls when you're trying to get people on a website. The goal is to get them to the portal. The portal is we've looked at it. We've had our consultants go through it. Nancy Stanton's team has done a fabulous job. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible from a technology point of view. We realize there's a real digital divide with people, that can handle the technology and those that can't. But we tried to keep it incredibly easy to manage.
I
But
understand.
we will be prepared to answer questions about how to use that portal. It's a control factor. I just want to add that, Legislator Rhodes. We are very focused on everybody using the portal because that's a internal control factor that will allow us to properly review and approve applications.
I understand the preference is for people to be able to use the portal, but if somebody has questions about it during the course of using the portal, questions about information that has to be inputted, how the portal works, if there's confusion about anything having to do with the portal, or if they don't have access to the portal, there should be some number for residents to be able to call. I would think that the most efficient way to do that is have that resident call a number and speak to a live person. I know that answering the phone is hard. I mean, we've seen that in the Department of Assessment. Getting somebody to answer the phone is a challenge. Consumer Affairs, getting somebody to answer the phone is a challenge. Even calling the county executive's office, getting somebody to answer the phone is a challenge. But it seems as though it's a challenge that we need to work out the solution to, because that is the most effective way for people to be able to get information if they have questions. Who are you supposed to ask? You can't shout at the computer. It seems rather counterproductive to say to somebody who's having difficulty navigating the portal, you have to physically drive to Eisenhower Park, or you have to find and then visit one of these library seminars that you're planning on having, as opposed to picking up the telephone and getting a person.
Well, we heard you. We heard Presiding Officer Nicolello. We understand that a call center operation is important to you. We'd like you to approve this legislation, so we're in agreement. We'll get a phone center set up.
No, obviously you want us to approve this legislation, and we would love to be able to deliver benefits, but the goal of the program is not for people to use the portal. The goal of the program is for people to get benefits. So, I'm just concerned that, even though the administration is saying now that they'll take under advisement the idea of setting up a call center, I'm concerned that we will, sort of like with assessment, we'll give our approval, and then all of a sudden, that sort of falls by the wayside.
If I was unclear in any way, I'm not saying I'll take it under advisement. I'm saying we will set up a call center.
And who's going to staff that call center?
Well, we'll get that plan in place. We will find our staff, we'll redirect, and we will assist to our constituents with answering questions. We'll monitor how effective it is, and we'll be able to see, is it a good use of our resources? Are we able to help? But we heard you that you'd like a call center, and we'll get one set up.
But the same staff that you have right now, at least that you're planning on using to potentially operate a call center, is the same staff that you have administering the Boost Nassau grant program and the Boost Nassau loan program. I'm just concerned, how much are these individuals supposed to be able to do at the same time?
Well, we
and
can
not affect the delivery of service?
The staff can be funded by ARP money, so we will augment the staff, and we will ensure that we get call center personnel set up, trained, and ready to roll.
And what do you think the time frame will be before that will actually be operational? I mean, again, we're trying to deliver money to residents as quickly as possible. That's the stated intention. We've been talking about this plan now since May, a very different plan from what's being introduced to us now, but we've been talking about the concept since May. Why have these conversations and why have these plans not already been put into place?
Well, we think we have very effective plans, and we have communications plan. You'd like to see something added to it, so we're going to add to it.
Okay, but we're talking about staffing. Are we going to have the staff in? Is there a plan to have the staff in place to be able to handle the volume of applications that you're going to be receiving and the volumes of questions that you are certainly going to be receiving once the public is made aware of the availability of this program?
Yes, we think we'll be able to recruit and train staff, and we have funds available to do that.
Understood, but what's the time frame? Do we know?
Well, if you are moving forward with approval today, we'll be launching tomorrow.
Okay, but you don't have the staff in place today to be able to handle that. That's my point. We've been talking about this since May. Why is there no plan to have staff in place? Let's say we give the approval and you want to roll it out tomorrow. That's great. You don't have the staff to be able to handle a rollout tomorrow.
No, let me be clear. We don't have the staff in place for a phone center, a call center, but we have the staff in place for Eisenhower Park, 40 Main Street, DSS, and we're going to set up 1 West Street. We're augmenting the Boost Nassau staff now. We have constituent affairs ready for the library strategy. You've asked us to add 1 more component. We're happy to do that because we want you to approve the plan. And like you, we'd like to get this money out to the public.
My understanding is that your Boost Nassau staff is approximately 5 people.
I think we actually have 7, and we have our minority affairs, Asian affairs, Hispanic affairs, and we're already recruiting under Regina Williams to augment Boost Nassau.
But don't those departments have other activities that they're supposed to be attending to?
I think that they'll be able to incorporate the question and answers that are needed to support community involvement.
To be perfectly honest, though, Deputy County Executive Williams, there is still a significant backlog in NWBE applications with the Office of Minority Affairs. They're having difficulty at their current staffing being able to stay current with the work that they already have. Now you have them administering really now 3 major programs in addition to the duties they're already struggling to accomplish. I don't see how that's an effective strategy without bringing on additional people.
We are bringing on additional people, and I believe Andy's there. Andy, our budget director, can speak to budget for staff increases in the 22 budget for both minority affairs and our other outreach offices as well. So we agree with you. We have a need to increase some staff resources. We'll do that under our budget, and we'll also do that with ARP funds.
Okay, so we'll be doing it with ARP funds, but those ARP funds are supposed to be used to provide benefits to residents. So every dollar that we use in administrative cost is $1 less than we could use to provide assistance. So is there any plan within the budget not using ARPA funds?
Yes, the outreach officers that we just discussed.
Okay. In any event, you seem to be confident, the administration seems to be confident that that they're going to be able to handle the volume of application and questions that you will be receiving the moment that this actually receives final approval, once residents are made aware of the availability of these benefits.
That's correct.
And when we start getting the phone calls because people can't get through or people don't understand the system, the solution from the administration is that we're supposed to contact constituent affairs?
Well, let's work separately. Katie Horse will help set up a system for our legislators who get questions from constituents to be able to either answer directly or refer them to us for a quick answer.
All right, so you're going to work on that?
Yeah, I don't want to.
Okay. I'm a little concerned that we've known these issues are going to come up since May, and we're talking about potential solutions to those problems now. So please, if you could, try and come up with some sort of plan for us sooner rather than later. My next question is with respect to security. One of the issues that we raised was the fact that by virtue, and somebody's microphone is open, so if you're not answering questions, if you could just mute, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. you're going to be receiving essentially income tax information from every applicant to the program, with the exception of the 40,000 seniors that are part of the Enhanced STAR program, where they've already pre-enrolled in the county receiving their tax information to determine their eligibility for Enhanced STAR. Which means, in theory, you could be receiving, 300,000 tax returns. What's the administration's plan for limiting the amount of people who will have access to that information and keeping that information secure?
Well, we have worked with Nancy Stanton to make sure that we are confident in the security aspects of the portal, and we've retained KPMG to do the review. Sean, could you just describe KPMG's approach?
Certainly. So, as the Chief Deputy mentioned, KPMG has been brought on board to essentially review the applications. They will be reviewing the applications within the portal that's being established. So the application is submitted through the portal, the reviews are done within the portal, and the approvals are done within the portal. KPMG will have access through a VPN connection. So it will not be over the internet. It will not be done via email. They will have a direct tunnel into the portal. They are very familiar with doing that. We linked their IT folks up with our IT folks. They spoke a lot of jargon that I wouldn't even be able to understand and repeat, at this point. But they've been working to develop a mass VPN connection. As for the controller, who will need to review the approvals, they will also be connected through the county's network into the portal. So it will not be done via email. It will not be done over the extra web, if you will. So with KPMG's experience and their comfort level in dealing with this type of information and keeping it secure, which includes the security measures, are something that they've worked on numerous projects in this capacity. We understand and we feel comfortable that their controls are sufficient to ensure that this information is kept secure. Again, the information resides and remains in the portal. It will not leave the portal in accordance with the control processes that we've set in place.
So KPMG is going to be supervising the portal and access, or is it our IT department that's doing that?
Our IT department, it will be maintaining the portal. They will be on call if there's an issue. They can patch in and troubleshoot. But KPMG will be responsible for the intake and the review.
And who will be watching over the controller's office, for example, as far as which employees have access and ensure that the information that's contained in the portal is not taken outside of the portal for another purpose?
We can have that conversation with the controller in terms of who from their audit staff, their review staff, will have access, and whether or not there's a separate document that needs to be executed to ensure that the information, for additional control, to ensure that information stays within the portal.
Well, in theory, if this gets passed today, you're rolling this program out tomorrow. So shouldn't those conversations have already taken place?
Well, yes, but again, the applications will first be, the portal will be opened up to receive applications first. So, we'll have a day or two to figure out, in working with our controller, in terms of what if any, additional security measures are needed. We'll be able to work through that. My understanding is, and I can't speak for the controller, but they deal with sensitive information, in their day-to-day. So I think this would not be a new, a concern for them.
But these are questions, I'm asking the questions, but, I've already been asked these questions by constituents who've heard about the fact that they're going to wind up having to submit their tax return in order for us to determine their eligibility now that there's a income threshold related to this. So you're going to receive a lot of those questions as well. We really need to have answers because people's confidence. I know that I would be hesitant in light of some of the issues that we've had. I mean, look. The best example I can draw is with respect to assessment. I mean, today we discovered that, and this isn't your department, today we discovered that 16,000 errors with respect to 16,000 properties that had been corrected on last year's roll as a result of those being uncovered. Those mistakes were duplicated now in the rolls that just went out, which potentially would have a $50 million impact on the bottom line if those mistakes aren't fixed in our phase-in. I know I would have a crisis of confidence turning over. I mean, I already do because we have financial disclosure, but if I'm a resident, I would have some concerns about turning over my sensitive information, my tax return, which is going to have name, address, social security number, information with which, if it goes into the wrong hands, a lot of damage can be done. Turning that over for the, in the hope of receiving a $375 check, which may or may not be taxable, we're going to have to answer those questions. Are we in a position to be able to answer it, or are those conversations that are going to happen in the next day or two?
Well, I think, I don't want to understate I appreciate the concern. I fully understand it. And I don't want to understate the fact that the county departments that already deal with sensitive information, know how to keep that information secure. I think, from one program to another, yes, there are some nuances and differences, of course, but I'm confident that the departments that are involved in this effort have the wherewithal to maintain those controls and keep that information sensitive. Again, I respect and understand your point, and that the residents of the county are, in applying, they want some peace of mind that this information will be kept secure, right, for $375. So, I can say that my understanding of the county controls and the departments that are working with us, they feel comfortable that this information will remain secure, and this money will be issued with security as the prime measure.
My concern is that you've got to sell that to the public, that there are people who will be aware of the program and will not apply despite being eligible for it, simply because they don't believe that we're going to do our jobs in keeping that information secure. So, that's something that we need to button up the answers to those questions and have actual substantive information to be able to provide to residents when they contact us with them, and we try and find somebody who can answer their questions.
If I may, Legislator Rhodes, I think that you are, articulating an extremely important point about the program parameters. There are clearly going to be people at higher income levels that don't want to share their income tax information. And that goes back to Legislator Ford, who asked, can the program be amended and modified as we go forward if, in fact, we're not spending, or we don't project that we're going to spend the full $100 million. And I think those are the kinds of considerations that we'll be reporting back to you on. I will say that we anticipate, of course, that there'll be a new controller. Whoever that new controller is, we assure you that we will work with them so that they understand the depth of concern regarding security issues. And as new staff comes on, they get the appropriate ethics training to ensure there isn't any improper disclosure of information that would, certainly concern people's privacy and privacy questions on income. So we understand, there's some programmatic issues for a new controller, but we are very confident that the office will be well maintained in terms of security, whoever the controller is.
So we are confident, and the county executive is confident, that we can keep the information, the sensitive information that taxpayers, that residents submit to us in the form of tax returns and their applications. We can keep that information secure. The county executive is confident of that.
We are confident that we have those systems in place.
And that those systems will work.
Yes.
Okay. Since we were talking about eligibility, and I'll try and wrap this up because I know there are other legislators that have questions. The interim finance rules, D.C. Williams, require that Nassau County consider whether and to the extent to which households experienced a negative economic impact from the pandemic, and requires that cash transfers be, quote, reasonably proportional to the negative economic impact they are intended to address. And you're familiar, obviously, that that's in the guidelines, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So under the plan that the administration has put forward, an unemployed single mom who has 4 kids will get $375 as a result of the program. A married couple with no kids making $170,000, $168,000, who never missed a single day of work and got every paycheck, will be getting the same $375. How does that relief in those two situations reasonably proportional to the negative economic impact that it intends to address?
I think that we tried to design a program that would have, sort of basic parameters for simplification in administration. We're not going to be looking at individual sliding scale income information, number of dependents, level of hardship below $169,000. And again, that is to keep the program one that could reasonably be administered by county government in an expeditious, effective, and efficient manner. Us looking at, sliding scale approach and weighing, various home economies and economic impact is not something we would have an expertise in.
Well,
so this is just a flat program of $375 direct assistance if you're under 169. If you're over 169, you have to show economic harm, and the portal identifies what would qualify.
But my concern, D.C. Williams, is that I know that in creating the program the way it's been created, the county is looking to create a program that's the easiest way for the county to be able to administer. But looking at the guidance, which says that the cash transfers have to be reasonably proportional to the negative economic impact, we've provided an illustration where if they're receiving the same benefit, a single mom with 4 kids is getting the same money, that's unemployed, is getting the same money as somebody who earned $168,000 and didn't have any economic impact, is doing what's easiest for the county in compliance with the guidance that's issued by the federal government. Has anybody actually asked that question of the federal government, which incidentally is a question we've been asking since May, and haven't gotten an answer to? And is the county executive confident that it actually complies? Or are we going to have a situation where the federal government at some point in time is going to turn around and say, yeah, you know what, the $100 million that you spent on this program wasn't in compliance with guidelines, and we want the money back?
We are absolutely confident that we have set up the program under the appropriate guidelines. I would say to you that while you are parsing through the safe harbor area of below 169, the guidelines don't require us to do that. And Jacob German is outside counsel. He is on the phone as well. We could have him speak to this if you'd like. But I think the issue is where is there a safe harbor under the interim rules? And the safe harbor for giving a benefit and making sure that the benefit itself isn't, an extraordinary benefit under ARP, was the sort of the first level of analysis that we had to make. So 375 is a reasonable amount, and it applies to everybody in the low and moderate income category.
So I understand that it applies to everyone in the low and moderate.
Above 69.
I understand that it applies to everyone in the low and moderate income category, and I do have one additional question with respect to AMI and how it was calculated. And I know that we have counsel on the line, and it's great that we went to outside counsel to get an opinion. However, was there a reason that we did not ask the Treasury Department, clue them in as to what our plan was, and ask them whether it would be consistent with the interim final rule that they've issued?
We got a lot of direction from, various contacts we made, including Senator Schumer's office, that Treasury did not want to answer specific questions about specific programs. And that they wanted to discuss in their interim rule, programmatic guidelines.
Even though the administration is saying that it's confident, we're relying upon the opinion that's been given to us by outside counsel, essentially, to reach the conclusion that it is consistent with the interim rule. I mean, is that essentially what you're saying?
Well, we had the county attorney's office as well. Lots of attorneys, even those who aren't practicing law, like myself, spent a lot of time reading the rules to make sure that we were fitting our program within those parameters. So we have outside counsel, we have the county attorney's office, and we have a lot of good legal thinking that went into this, and believe that the $375 is an absolutely safe amount for this county legislature to approve.
Well, we know that the $375 may be a safe amount, but the question is specifically with regard to the income threshold and the actual circumstances of the individual recipient, and whether the relief is reasonably proportional to the harm. So I understand that we have counsel. I understand that we have counsel on the line. If I can ask, Mr. German, if you're still there.
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. How do we reconcile the interim final rule saying that the cash transfer must be reasonably proportional to the negative economic impact with the hypothetical scenario that I provided of having an unemployed single mom of 4 kids having no income getting the same $375 that a couple who didn't miss a day of work that's making $168,000 getting the same $375?
Thank you for the question. That is an area of that we looked into and examined in that scenario. The concern, though, about the size of the payment relative to that person's economic impact is an absolute sense, not necessarily as compared to the negative economic impact of others. I have a colleague on the phone or on the meeting as well that has reviewed this in greater detail. Matt, I'm going to turn to you to provide some more context on that example.
What's Matt's? I'm trying to follow the bouncing ball on this one.
I apologize. His name is Matthew Morgan. He's a colleague of mine in our federal relations group.
Thank you.
Specializing in administrative rules.
Counselor, Mr. Morgan, how are you?
Well, just confirming that you can hear me.
I can.
Yes. So, as to the exact question presented, and we can get to the other follow-on questions for sure. But to the exact question presented, it was this. Your question is to the disparate impact, and under the rule specifically says that you as the county may consider and take guidance from the per person amounts previously provided by the federal government in response to the COVID-19 crisis. What this allowance does under the rule is for example, the federal government this year sent $1,400 stimulus checks to everyone who qualified, regardless of the scenario that you discussed. The federal government did not distinguish between how hard various populations were hit, so long as they were within the eligibility criteria.
So, Mr. Morgan, if I can just, you're talking about the Emergency Capital Investment Program?
No, I'm talking about the stimulus checks that the United States government sent to all citizens.
Okay.
The program allows you to model it
on.
Yeah, the program, the assistance to households program inside of, or the criteria inside of the interim final rule specifically allows you to model as the federal government did. In essence, you can choose an eligible population and send them all the same amount of checks. Now, whether that's prudent or not is a decision for the county itself based on who it wants to benefit under the rules of the program. But the decision to send the $375 checks to everyone within the allowable population is directly allowed under the interim final rule.
Except the economic impact program gave double the funds to married couples and even more money to couples if they had kids. So it did take individual circumstances into account, whereas our program doesn't.
You're referring to the economic impact program that we referenced in our letter. My sense is, let me question this. You're asking whether the economic impact program that we referenced in our letter establishing either 120% or 130% of AMI. Am I correct about that?
No, that's a separate question that I have, but you're referencing specifically the ARPA economic impact payments that would provide payments of up to $1,400 for individuals or $2,800 for married couples, plus an additional $1,400 for every dependent. Plus the income thresholds in that program were completely different from the income thresholds that we actually have here. It was $75,000 for single and married persons filing a separate return, up to $112,500 for heads of household. So it seems as though the program that you're drawing a comparison to for the purposes of justifying this one has substantial differences which do take into account individual family circumstances and actually do so at a much lower threshold.
Yes, but we still view that as a question of prudential decision-making or policy decision-making of the county itself or of the federal government. The rule itself, we believe, allows that you may set per person amounts based on the distributions. You can set the criteria how you want. You're provided that flexibility under the law. If you choose to strike those income levels, you're allowed to do that. But the federal government has also allowed you to set this on a per person basis, so long as the cash transfer are not grossly in excess of the amount needed to address the negative economic impact. And our sense of the matter is that the $375 per person, even at the highest levels, would not be grossly in excess of the amounts. I mean, it would be, I think if your constituents saw this, they'd say, well, we would love even more money, right? So that becomes the policy decision making. But to say whether or not it's legally within the allowable limits of the program to provide per person distributions of an equal amount based on a defined population, in this case, the 130% of AMI, to us, that is acceptably within the bounds of the interim final rule.
Well, except we're kind of changing gears a little bit. I mean, the Emergency Capital Investment Program was designed specifically to target low and underserved communities. So the 120% AMI calculation that they made was specifically with respect to low income and underserved communities. The 130 AMI calculation that we're using, which you're saying is a parallel, was based upon the entire county's population. If we targeted the program simply to low income and underserved communities, that AMI calculation would be vastly different than what you're getting now, wouldn't it? How are those two things consistent?
Well, it would be, or it could be, but again, that's the question for us.
More than could be, it would be.
Well, the question for us, though, is it allowable under the interim final rule? It seems to me that your question is, could we do it another way? Absolutely. Is this program as proposed allowable under the rule because you've taken into account the negative economic impact on the population at issue for the program, that it would be an acceptable program?
The end result of these questions is, look, if we implement the program as it's drafted, and it turns out that the federal government makes a determination that our program is not consistent with the rules, who takes it on the chin for that?
Yes, that would be the county would, but that would be if the cash transfers are decided to be grossly in excess of the amount needed to address the economic impact.
But we're relying upon your advice and counsel. And are you confident, and is your firm confident that that won't happen?
We are confident that in the program we've reviewed as it's written on paper right now that it is within the acceptable bounds of the interim final rule. I totally understand the county's frustration with Treasury, the Department of Treasury, insofar as that the Department of Treasury, for better or worse, or to be uncharitable, for worse, has decided that they are not going to provide individual assurance letters to any local unit of government in this country as to the acceptability of their program. So therein, the risk, to your question, is who's bearing the risk? Yes, the risk is on the county as to its decision-making as to how to distribute the funds.
I was going to say, which may be the reason why there are so few municipalities who are actually making these direct payments, correct?
It could be, yes. The calculation of risk is to not be the first mover. That is a possible explanation for the slow delivery of funds, yes.
But the county executive is asking us to roll the dice, and it's your concerted legal concern. It's your, I want to say concerted, but that's not the right word. It's your considered, there you go, legal opinion that based upon what you've read about the program as it's been proposed, that would fall within those guidelines.
Yes.
Okay. Last question. Taxability. You've given an opinion that the $375 payment would not be taxable for the purposes of federal income tax. Newsday reported, which is a local paper to us. I understand you're in Illinois?
Indiana.
Okay. Newsday, which is our local paper, reported having spoken to someone at the administration who gave a different opinion that it would be taxable. I know that in the report that you wrote, that it's not. We're supposed to rely upon your opinion that it's not taxable, but residents shouldn't rely upon that opinion themselves. Is there a reason for that? Because when this program gets rolled out and I'm asked whether it's taxable or not, we're going to say that we received an opinion from Barnes and Thornburg that it's not taxable. Is there a reason why we shouldn't do that?
So I'd be curious, for one, to see that if you've received any information on that side, I'd be curious to see that information. But from our perspective, that the payments like these are not a taxable event. The qualifier that you noticed in the letter, and that as far as Barnes and Thornburg not providing legal advice to all taxpayers within Nassau County. The reason that there's a qualifier in there is because the individual taxpayers could be subject to individual rules based on other federal programs that they are subjected to. So that's where we're trying to bifurcate in the letter, that this payment not being taxable, but the implication on income, for instance, could have impacts on other federal programs that the taxpayers individually in Nassau County are subject to.
So at the end of the day, if a constituent were to call me and ask me if this was taxable income, and I would say that we received an outside opinion from Barnes and Thornburg that it would not be, that would be problematic, right? Because they may have individual circumstances which may make it taxable.
They would have individual circumstances where this income could have taxable consequences for other federal programs that they are subject to.
Okay. So we can say we can say that we received an outside legal opinion from Barnes and Thornburg saying that it would not be taxable. However, you should check with your own tax professional as to how it applies to you.
Exactly. Yes.
That's
100%.
Okay. I appreciate it. I'll yield, Mr. Presiding Officer. I know other legislators have questions.
Okay, Legislator Ferretti, then Legislator Walker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Chief Deputy Williams, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, how you doing?
Good.
You spoke earlier about the plan, the outreach plan. You spoke about some meetings that you're planning on having at libraries. Do you have a list of, specifically of what libraries you're planning on having those meetings at?
No, but we can provide that to you.
So that's already been planned out? Which libraries?
You know, we've had outreach to the libraries. We've identified some that were, willing to offer space. And we are in an ongoing process and discussion with the libraries. If there's one that you'd specifically like us to reach out to, we'd be happy to do that.
Who's actually going to be running those meetings?
Who's going to be running the outreach communications staff?
So constituent affairs?
And communications.
Okay. And have they already
And
been...
they will have experts from, they will also have, staff from Regina Williams and the outreach offices. We're trying to ensure that we provide some bilingual support for the program as well.
Okay. I know a lot of libraries are still not having in-person gatherings of, more than like 5 people. I know in my district, for example, none of them are. So will you be looking into alternative locations if libraries are not having those meetings?
We can, certainly.
Okay, but I know you already kind of have a plan in place, and you brought up libraries, and apparently there's been some outreach to libraries already, and I can tell you that the outreach in my district could not have yielded a scheduled meeting because they're not having any meetings. So, I know I heard a lot about minority affairs, and you just spoke about bilingual, and that's great. We should be using those resources to get the word out. But I think Legislator Rhodes brought up, the general public that may not have access to those agencies. I certainly would hope that they're going to get as much outreach. So, is there going to be at least one location in every legislative district that's going to have one of these meetings?
I have not assessed that yet. But if you want to make a recommendation for a location within your district, that will reach out to other legislators regarding their districts, we'd be happy to do that. Even for the grievance program, we generally use, the library locations. We have some other locations on occasion. But we will, be using a widespread communications plan to try to get this word out. And of course, part of our goal is to encourage spending in Nassau County. So we'll be using the chambers, for example, apply for your 375 and come and shop in our downtown, locations, have a dinner out, get a haircut.
Well, the whole reason that we even need to have a communications plan, one as thorough as I think we're trying to make sure we have, is because the administration's initial plan is not coming to fruition, right? I mean, the initial plan was that anyone who received Basic Star would automatically get one of these checks, right?
That had been one of our early parameters that we were looking at, but we made it clear that we were seeking advice on the program parameters.
Sure. Well, that was made clear at one of our hearings. It wasn't made clear at the press event that was held, announcing that every resident making under $500,000 would receive this. Of course, that was a promise that now is not going to be kept. But had it been, there'd be no need for any outreach or information in terms of how to apply, because there would be no application process under that initial plan, right?
Well, I can't really speak to what the parameters were of a plan that didn't mature. We're at a plan and a point now where we have a mature plan. We're asking for your support. We've expanded the program to include more households by including homeowners and renters. So we're trying to do a balanced program that provides direct assistance, which is allowable under ARP.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up to what you just said. I know you just said that you expanded the program to include more households, right?
Yes.
But I think what you really mean is you expanded the program to include more types of households, whether it be renters or homeowners, because the reality is that less checks are going to be sent out under this plan than under the initial plan, right?
But our goal is to ensure that we provide the legislature with a plan that we are confident meets the federal guidelines. And that's what we've done. We presented you with a plan that we're confident meets the federal guidelines.
Okay, but the initial plan would have sent out checks to every household with an income under $500,000 that receives STAR, and we were told that would add up to $100 million. Now, the new plan that we may vote on today, the eligibility would still be up to $500,000, but between $168 and $500, you need to show harm, correct?
That is correct.
And I think you'd agree with me that not every single Nassau home has experienced harm as a result of COVID, right?
Oh, I'm confident that that's correct.
So you would agree with me then that the universe of households who may receive a check has decreased, right?
I believe that that is correct, that because we are trying to ensure that we are 100% confident that we fit the parameters of the federal program, that we modified the program as we went forward to expand it and not rely on the STAR database. But I can't really speak to what your understanding was of, you know, the initial program. I thought we were pretty clear that we needed to seek Treasury guidance. At that time, we were very hopeful that Treasury would actually make, you know, specific recommendations about specific programs.
Okay.
As you heard from outside counsel, they declined to do that.
But my point is, it's not the first time I've heard it from members of the administration, that this new plan expands the amount of people that amount of households that can receive a check. It's just not true. I mean, the amount of checks that are going to go out, that are, right, no, I mean, there will be less eligible households, as we just agreed upon, under this new plan than the plan that was initially broadcast to the news back in May.
Again, I can't speak to what your understanding was of that program. We always wanted a program that met federal guidelines. I think everybody
what is your understanding
wants a program that meets federal guidelines.
What is your understanding? Would you agree with the statement that the initial plan encompassed every household that received Basic STAR?
Our first goal was to try to ascertain whether we could get a higher income level approved by the federal government.
Okay.
But they have declined to move their standards, and they're very strict in terms of what they would respond to.
I understand. I don't want to, you know, I'm not looking to beat a dead horse, but I think we can agree that the first program would include every household that received Basic STAR. I think we agreed on that already. I think it's also not really a controversial statement to say that this program that's in front of us today will not result in checks going to every household that receives Basic STAR. Therefore, it seems pretty obvious that less checks will go out under this program than the initial program that was promised to Nassau residents. But I'll move on. Mr. Sally, maybe you can answer this. Sorry, I took some notes down as Legislator Rhodes was speaking, so they're kind of jumbled and out of order. So thank you, Chief Deputy. I might have a question for you in a few minutes. But
Legislator, I can't actually speak to the question you just posed regarding the number of potential awardees or recipients.
Okay.
Comparing the prior plan to the current. I'm looking at a table of households in Nassau County. I have one table that breaks out ownership households and one table that breaks out renter households. So as many of you are aware, there are about 80% of the households in Nassau are owner, about 20% are rental. So there are about 360,000 household ownership households in Nassau, about 86,000 rentership households. I'm looking at this chart. It's breaking it out by those households by income. If we assume that, and it breaks out income in 5,000 increments. This is all from the U.S. Census. But in the outside of the presumption, so 169 up, for owner households, there are about 155 households that are outside of the presumption. For rental households, there are about 76,000 households that are outside of the presumption. Now, those households go, in terms of income, they go well beyond the 500 as well. The census just does not break down those higher income households, so we don't know exactly what that breakout looks like. However, if for the ownership households, which I said are about 155,000 above the presumption, about half of the households are in the rentership category above those income. So if you get less than half the 155,000 in the ownership households, and almost all of the renter households, which is about 76,000, you could have a scenario, and I'm saying, there are multiple scenarios that could play out, but one of the scenarios is in fact where you have more checks going out under the proposed program as compared to the prior program. So just wanted to put that on the record because, again, there are a couple of scenarios that could play out, but there is, in fact, a scenario here where we could be issuing more checks under the current versus the prior program.
All right, so you spoke kind of fast. I didn't write all the numbers down. I understand there's a scenario, from what you're saying, where there could be, because you're including another type of household, a rental household. So, for example, theoretically, if every Nassau property owner with a household income between 169 and 500 all experienced COVID harm and all applied, yes, then you would have a scenario where more checks would go out because the initial program didn't include renters.
Right.
I got it. I find it hard to believe that we're going to have that many households, or every household. We'll see. So I appreciate your point that it is theoretically possible that more checks go out under this program. I think it's unlikely. I guess we'll find out if this passes today. But thank you for that explanation.
Sure.
And speaking onto that, and I know Legislator Ford brought this up earlier, one of the scenarios I'm sure you have is that less checks go out than what was originally anticipated, correct? That is a possible scenario.
It is in terms of giving the income.
All right, so assume that happens and not, $100 million is not used. That money can be allocated to other COVID relief, correct? I don't know who, maybe I should say who I'm asking.
Let me, Sean, I'll just jump in here. It can be reallocated under ARP, meeting those guidelines, and we would come back to the legislature for the correct appropriation.
And is there going to be a deadline for residents or homeowners or renters to apply for this 375?
The program can continue through 2026.
Right, but if we're going to reallocate whatever funds are not used, if any, we would obviously need time to do that. So is it anticipated now? And maybe the answer is, we've got 5 years to worry about it. But
not that I want to take words out of your mouth, but yes, we do have time to look at the progress of the program, to make estimates on how the program's been utilized and what the funding might be that could be reallocated.
All right, so as of now, there's no deadline other than 2026?
Correct.
Maybe this is a question for Mr. Sally. Sorry to make you get up and down, but Ms. Williams, if you want to answer too, that's fine. I just want to make sure I understand before you take this vote. If you have a young resident, your son or daughter, 21 years old, living in your house, and they file tax returns, they make whatever, $30,000 a year, and they submit their tax return through the portal, and the parents make $300K each. So the household income is over $500,000. They're not eligible, but the single filer submitted their tax return through the portal at an annual salary well below the amount. What is the safeguard in place to not send a check to that household?
Chief Deputy, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, Sean, go ahead, because we've been working on these program controls.
Okay, certainly. So in that scenario, in any scenario, the applicants are required to provide a proof of head of the housing unit. So a mortgage statement homeowner's insurance statement, a lease, with the applicant's name on the lease, insurance, I think I mentioned, or a utility bill with that person's name on the utility.
Can I just stop you 1 second? When you say in that scenario, in the scenario I presented, only one tax return is going into the portal. So how does the county know that anyone else even lives there? Are they cross-referencing it with a deed?
Well, no. If that address has already received a check, the portal will know, and that address will be essentially, stricken from future consideration.
No, understood, but that address should never have received a check at all, right? It's household income.
But the way we're determining household income is the head of the housing unit submitting his or her tax return, one tax return per housing unit. Or unless you are married filing separately, then it's both. So if the working son or daughter, 21, 22 years old, is the first person to submit in the portal, that person will also need to include, in addition to his or her 1040, proof of head of the housing unit. So again, a lease, a mortgage statement, a mortgage, housing insurance, homeowners insurance, in that person's name. So, if the son or daughter does not have that information, then an application will not be approved. If the son or daughter talks to his or her, parent and says, our household is still eligible, please apply, the parent should be able to provide that head of the housing unit.
So in my scenario, when the son or daughter uploads the tax return, what indication is there on the tax return that would trigger the county saying, hey, you need to get us a lease, or it's the way that they file? Like, what is?
Right, so we won't know if it's the son, the daughter, the portal itself has, the first page is what you need to submit as part of the application. So when you're going through the application, you're uploading your 1040. There's also a place on the portal where you'll need to upload a copy of those documents.
I guess I'm still not getting it. I don't understand.
Well, I'm going to jump in because I think I'm getting your question, Legislator Peretti, and I just want to make sure we navigate this correctly. I think you're asking, how will we know that that's an individual that resides with his parents? Because the parents haven't applied.
Exactly.
Individual will have a home address on their tax return, and we will be able to determine whether that's a home that is in his name or her name, or it's in someone else's name.
How? Do you cross-reference with the deed?
We will be able to cross-reference with information they have to provide in the portal to show that they are the head of the household.
Okay.
Sean, we have a list of things that individuals have to use to demonstrate that they're head of the household.
Right, exactly. A mortgage statement, a lease, homeowner's insurance, utility bill, etc.
So the son or daughter will not be able to provide mom or dad's, mortgage, utility statement, etc.
So basically anyone who does not file as head of household, if they're filing individually, will have to provide this additional information.
Exactly. It's all in the drop-down menu, and those are the items that Sean was referring to have to be uploaded before the application can be approved.
Okay. Now,
and Legislator, any applicant will need to file those documents in addition to the 1040.
So there's no one who's just going to submit a tax return. Everyone is submitting additional information.
That's correct. We need to verify the residential unit, the address, and the head of the housing unit status.
And this is going to be done by the vendor or by county employees?
This will be done by the vendor.
Okay. So they're
the
also
review
going
will be
to,
done by the vendor.
Okay. So we're also going to give access to a lease agreement in a case of an upload of a lease, correct?
If that's what they're uploading.
And what were some of the other things that can qualify as this additional information?
Sure. Mortgage statement, lease, homeowner's insurance, utility bill, water, electric, gas.
I mean, look, this is a lot to ask of residents to put their trust in our database. Is that the word for it? I mean, look, I've the utmost respect for Nancy Stanton and her team. I've worked with Nancy for a long time. She's great at what she does. But we can't ignore the fact that last year we had a ton of errors with the department, with the assessment information. And although we called them errors, what we were told by the administration were they were computer glitches. That was the term that was used by the administration, glitches in the computer system. Now, I might not agree with that. I think it was more errors, but that's what they told us. So clearly there were glitches in that system. And then you look at the controller's office, which I believe is one of the offices that's going to have access to this information, correct?
They'll need to approve, yes.
Right, and there's been breaches, as we all know, in that system. And what we're asking residents to do is to upload information into a cloud, or whatever you want to call it, with their social security number, their children's social security numbers, on this information into the system. I think it's just, I think that expecting residents to do this, if we're anticipating it's going to be a large amount, I don't see it.
But just a point of clarity, we're not asking for, children or...
Well, that's on my tax return. I get a deduction for my 2 children. So if I upload my tax return, I'm uploading my social security number, which, by the way, I'm not doing. But, it would be their social security numbers, my social security number. Are we telling people to redact that?
We did talk about that at the last meeting, and we're internally talking about being able to redact all information from that form that is not necessary for the HAP program. So that's being considered.
Okay.
We don't need any additional information that is not necessary to prove eligibility.
Okay. If this is going to be voted on today, me personally, especially in light of the vast majority of my constituents being hammered by the reassessment, I can't not vote in favor of something that's going to provide any amount of relief to my constituents. So I'm going to reluctantly, if this comes to a vote today, vote in favor. But I see this as a recipe for disaster. I think that there's a lot of risk here, whether it be risk of personal information going onto a computer database that I've not been convinced adequately is secure, or whether this money could be clawed back by the federal government, which I'm not convinced it can't be. But my residents need this money. They've been hammered with the reassessment. But at the same time, I would strongly encourage the Chief Deputy and the County Executive to get behind our recurring relief to residents in our over $100 million in fee cuts for unconstitutional and illegal fees. So, I just want to put that out there before the vote. I thank all of you for your thorough responses to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator. Legislator Walker?
Thank you, and I hope I'm not repeating what was already said, but I guess this is for our Chief Deputy County Executive, but I know you said that, we do have a big communication in plan, and I just know in many of the events that we've had, even different workshops that were out there, many people had no clue that they were taking place, and I would ask some of them how they found out, and they said, well, I just happened to hear something on News 12 or whatever. So that is a major concern for me. It's also a major concern that we have many homebound people, many in my district. I don't know how they're going to get this information. They're not going to go to libraries. I mean, I still have many people in my district that have really not left their house since a year ago March. They're still frightened, and especially with the different variants that are out there, they're very, very cautious, and, I don't know how they're going to get that information. They're not going to go to, Eisenhower Park or West Street or, again, many of my libraries in my district don't have, full accessibility to the library yet. So how are we going to address those homebound residents?
We will have to rely on a good network of assistance. You know, most of our homebound individuals do interact with services. They interact, you know, of course, with their relatives. We can work with you, Legislator Walker, if you have any particular individuals in your district that you're particularly concerned about. We did do a very good job on our homebound program with vaccinations, so we have some sense of who that population is. We can take a special look at the homebound at your request. I do think a lot of our homebounds, and I don't want to you know, just generalize, but they may fall into the senior category that may be automatically eligible. So that would be our first cut at being able to respond and ensure that seniors do get assistance, and in particular, homebound seniors.
Okay, I know I do have many seniors that are just, you know, I mean, under normal circumstances would not necessarily be homebound, but they still are because of their situation, or they have an elderly parent that they take care of, and they're just concerned. They're afraid still to go out. I also have many residents that don't have access to computers. You know, I still have a large older population, and you know, I mean, they're retired. They would fall into the category not to get an automatic check. Many of them are not on, you know, don't get a senior exemption, or they're not in Hand Star because they get their pensions or whatever. But you know, they're just not computer literate. They didn't need it in their lives before, and don't really care to have it now, or they'll tell you they're too old to learn that. So they would then have to go someplace to either go to one of our sites to hopefully or bring their paperwork, or is that what they would have to do?
Well, I will say, you know, I do think that we have a very good network of relatives. You know, many of those seniors that you're referring to, and we all, you know, have seniors in our own neighborhoods that we've helped all through, you know, the pandemic, making sure that they were, you know, they had, you know, access and food resources and transportation, you know, giving rides. We are going to rely on a good word of mouth strategy where relatives who may be younger, their own children, adult children, are helping, you know, mom, dad, aunt, or uncle to be able to apply for this. So I think that we are going to have greater success in reaching those seniors than you might imagine right now. We'll have the first cut that are in Hand Star. We'll be able, you know, after the mailing period where we have a bar, be able to reach more homeowners after that period of time. I know you as a legislator will be contacting, you know, reach out, apply now. So I'm confident that there's more ways of achieving this with assistance from relatives.
I hope you're right in that. I just know when it came time even for them getting COVID vaccines, I could not tell you how many residents called because literally they felt that they don't have anyone to help them. And you know, so I hope we don't face that. I hope everybody that's able to, you know, or is eligible will be able to. I do have a big question about renters. I know you said you know, this program did include renters. Many homes in my community, in my district, they're illegal rentals. But they're rentals, and perhaps there's two families renting a home. They certainly are not the head of household. You know, they have a landlord, whatever. They perhaps do have a lease. Now, how is that going to work if, say, that was myself, my family, and Legislator Schaefer's family? So if I happen to go first and I have my lease and I send all that information in and you get mine, then Legislator Schaefer's family's just out of luck because now that home already had someone, you know, go through the portal, and fill out all their paperwork or show you everything, but Legislator Schaefer's family could, you know, could meet all those requirements too, but since we're both in the same home, you know, and what if the landlord in that house decided he was going to apply?
There's no question that we have, you know, some families and towns may say, you know, that it's a code violation, that they're not supposed to be multiple families, but you know, I respect your, you know, observation, you know, that it clearly does happen. We have designed a program, though, that it is based on evidence of the head of household. So somewhere there's a lease, a utility bill, a water bill that's going to have the primary name for that household on the lease. And right now our program is designed to just provide for the 375 to those individuals. But I hear you that you are concerned about where there are multiple families, you know, perhaps, you know, facing housing, you know, difficulties, and they're all in one location.
Right, so I would think that what you're saying to me then is basically all of those renters are just, don't qualify.
But we have to, you know, we have to design program guidelines that we can control, that we can audit, that we can ensure we have, you know, reasonable documentation to show why we provided the payment we provided. So, yes, I hear you that there may be, you know, houses that house more than one unit of a family. But right now, our program is designed to issue the check to someone who does have the proper evidence to support the payment. We've got to have a paper trail that we can audit on
I do understand that, but when the information goes out that renters qualify, well, a lot of renters don't.
But we think the majority do, and the majority will have documentation, and they are in legal residences, and they'll be able to show a lease, a utility payment.
Okay, well, I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's what the program is. So, you know, those residents, if they reach out, we'll just have to let them know. Well, you know, you'll have to reach out to the county executive's office because unfortunately you don't apply. You don't qualify. I mean, I could just tell you in my district, that's a large number.
Is that a Town of Oyster Bay code issue? I'm just not sure.
Yes, I'm sure it's a code issue in many of our towns, but unfortunately, you know, for many people, that's what they're doing now. You know, I mean, you know, even like you have a senior who might be alone and the only way they can afford to remain in their house, or even for their family to feel like, oh, there's an extra, you know, family in the home with them, they rent, you know, part of the home. And, you know, so it's otherwise, I guess they feel that they couldn't afford to stay here any longer. And I do think that's a large number of people. I mean, I can't speak for every legislator here, but certainly that's a big part of my district. And, you know, I mean, you know, other than when they become like boarding homes and people get very upset with them, but many of those homes are throughout the districts. And unfortunately, none of those renters will qualify because they are not the homeowner. They're not the head of household. They might have a lease, they might have, you know, utility payments, they might have utility bills, they might have things that would prove their qualification, but they are not the head of the household. You know, someone else owns that home.
Again, I just want to clarify, if you have the evidence of a lease, then you do qualify. If you were, you know,
well, that's what I said before, but if I have a lease and Legislator Schaefer's family had a lease for living in home A, okay, and I sent mine in first, Legislator Schaefer, although she has the lease for her family, isn't going to get it because the home already got one.
I'm just not sure we would see two legit, legal, authorized leases for a single premises. I can't go there in terms of speculation, but most landlords, have to be very careful that they only issue one lease for a premise.
Well, I don't know. I just know that that's a very big scenario in my district, and I think that's a scenario in many of the other legislators' districts. So I guess those are my main questions. I mean, I hope it works out how we see it, but that's a big concern for me.
Thank you, legislator.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Yes. Okay, thank you, Helena, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we've had a full debate and discussion. Any public comment? All right, before we vote, I'm going to say a few words. Whoever wants to say anything, it's fine. I'm going to vote for this. We are putting some monies back in the pockets of our residents, particularly those with a limited income and those who have been economically harmed by this pandemic. I wanted to note that this process, this legislation was initially filed and they sought to have us approve it by an emergency, but by us doing our due diligence and having these multiple hearings and asking our questions, we have established the following, that the confidentiality of the tax returns will be protected. They will not be subject to FOIL. The county is hiring a vendor to administer this process that has provided to us a full project plan. County will be providing on-site locations for assistance of people who may not be able to navigate the portal and developing a full outreach plan. And today, the county has indicated through the Chief Deputy County Executive that there will be a dedicated line, people who want to call, as well as a call center. Most of all, we've got a representation from the county that they are county administration, that they are confident in their ability to manage this program. So I will be voting yes.
Did you want to go first? Okay, I'm going to jump ahead. I too support this initiative. And first of all, Sean, I do want to say thank you very much for heading this up and putting your heart and soul into this. You did a fine job. All right, but as I said, there is a merit to this program distribution, but I do believe that we fall short in reaching out to all who I believe are entitled to this money. While we give to a household, we are denying those who have low-income jobs and suffered greatly during the pandemic and are being left out as they cannot afford an apartment, especially single mothers with children, because they are not living in a two-family and they may be renting a room. Yes, there are many households that can use this, especially as the holidays are approaching. So I think it is good in that sense. But I do hope we do not wait until 2026 before we redirect any unspent funds, but watch out and hopefully redirect this to other projects and other recipients, such as county employees who did work during the pandemic, putting themselves at risk. But with this, I will vote yes.
Okay. Thank you. I too support the idea of helping people who were hurt by COVID, and that's what the recent avalanche of federal money was intended to do. However, I cannot support this program. And I'm not going to go into a lot of questions. I did not participate in the questioning. I think that's been fairly well beaten to death, both here today as well as in the earlier committee meetings. I asked questions and my colleagues asked many questions. What it looks like to me, how it comes out, is that the program is not well designed and not really targeted at helping COVID victims. I believe that it's been well established that many, many people who will be getting funds were not necessarily hurt by COVID. I believe that the converse is true as well, that many people who were hurt by COVID will not be reached and will not get these funds. And given that, I believe that the funds should be used in such a fashion. This is it's a once perhaps in a lifetime opportunity. We're getting a lot of money, $200 million this year, $200 million next year. We need to do things that help the county in terms of the immediate situation, to be sure. But we also we have a responsibility to do things that will benefit our county, our residents, our taxpayers in the long run. The funds here can be used for other purposes. It's been established that we are allowed to use the funds for other purposes, not every purpose, not any purpose, but an earlier tranche of federal money was used in that way by the administration for salaries because they felt that that was what needed to be done at that point. There are county needs. There are county needs such as drainage projects. There are many drainage projects that need doing. These funds are properly used for something like that, and it would benefit our residents in the long term. Moreover, if we use these funds in that way, we don't have to borrow money for that. That will provide long-term, lasting tax relief for our residents, and I think that's more important than just a check right now. I think it's our responsibility to do more. With that, I do not support this program. Thank you.
Yes.
Just real quick, I don't have a very long speech or anything like that, but I just wanted to say that obviously, as I said before, our side is prepared to vote in the affirmative for this plan for multiple different reasons. And I hear and understand some of the concerns that Legislator Coppell has described, but I truly believe that they are, to all different various degrees, I think all Nassau County residents have endured some level of impact from COVID. From losing a loved one to multiple other things, losing a job or losing a job for a period of time that could be COVID related, especially if you think back the earlier days when restaurants and businesses were closed. A lot of people lost income, and a lot of people weren't able to regain that income. But since we've come out of that darkness, we've been able to see people get their jobs back and come back, and that has a ripple effect. It just doesn't impact the person that lost their job. It could impact somebody that they know, maybe somebody they helped out during that period of time. And look, the way I look at it is, and I've said this before, Nassau County, or Long Island as a region, New York, quite frankly, we pay some of the highest federal taxes in the country. And we see very little return in regards to that money being restored or coming back from Washington to us. And if there's an opportunity for us as Nassau County residents to be able to have an opportunity to get $375, I think that's money well earned that quite frankly, Nassau County residents deserve, and they earned it already. And I'm happy to see this proposal. I want to congratulate the county executive for having the foresight to be able to do this, and Sean and Connell and the county executive and deputy county executive as well, Helena Williams. I want to thank them for having the foresight to be able to put Nassau County residents first. I do want to ask just a quick question. I know we passed the mass mailing, or some of the limitations on the mass mailing. If I wanted to do a mailer on this at some point to educate, obviously I couldn't do it before the election, within the 45 days, but if we wanted to do something, I think it would be beneficial to our residents that if each of us as a 19 legislative body did try to do some type of mailer to explain what residents are going to start to see in the upcoming weeks. Maybe we wait till after November 2nd. I don't want to be accused of doing anything for political advantage. But Sean, is there some type of way we can work with the administration so that we can put together maybe some type of fact sheet or letting people know exactly what they're going to be expecting? I think that might be a good idea to do. to be able to try to do that. So we won't do it before November 2nd, but we'll definitely do something. But thank you again.
Legislator Schaefer, Rhodes, and Walker.
Thank you. Just have a brief statement myself. Mr. Denyon and Mr. Sally, thank you. I think you did a great job with what you were presented with. I agree to some extent with what Legislator Capella said in that I really wish this had been a little bit more of a targeted program. I know there are people that really, will benefit from this, that did suffer. But there are many people that are not going to benefit from it because of, the kind of blanket approach that has been taken. I will be voting in favor of it, but I just really thought that, something that was a little bit more thought out with regard to, yes, certain people getting it that demonstrate need or seniors, people that really did financially suffer from this. And for example, what the minority leader was just saying, people that were left out of restaurant business, people that were no longer employed. They were getting some unemployment, which is good, from the federal government, but at the same time, some of those people may be renting apartments, and they're not going to be able to access this money as well. So, there's pros and cons to this, definitely, in my opinion. Again, I know some people who really need it will get this funding, so I am going to vote in favor of it, but I just wish that it had been parsed out a little bit better. That's it. Thank you.
Legislator Rhodes, then Legislator Walker.
Thank you. I certainly agree with Legislator Schaefer. The reality is the county executive could have done this a year ago. We had CARES Act money that was available that could have gone to small businesses. 1 in 6 small businesses in Nassau County closed during the pandemic and never to return. Many more than 1 in 6 actually closed their doors, at least for the 3 months during the shutdown as a result of Governor Cuomo's executive order. That money could have been used to help them through that difficult time. There were residents that couldn't pay rent. There were residents that couldn't pay their mortgages. There were people that lost their jobs, with those jobs never to return. It could have been used for job retraining. Instead, $98 million of the CARES Act money was used to pay salaries and benefits so that we could have a budget surplus in an election year. It's disgraceful, in my opinion. So, the urgency that the county executive has expressed with respect to this plan is sabotaged by the fact that there was no urgency behind getting relief to residents a year ago when she had the opportunity to do so and chose to keep that money essentially for herself and for her budget. So, I don't want to stand in the way of getting money out to residents. I certainly concur that this could have been better targeted to provide more relief to residents who actually did suffer an economic impact as a result of COVID. Unfortunately, I think it's too little, too late in many of those instances. And I'm also disappointed. I mean, we were presented with an idea back in May. We were never presented with a plan. The only reason that there is any kind of a semblance of a plan is because we started asking questions in May. Many of those questions we still don't have the answers to, but the limited answers that we have are only because over the course of the last 3 months, 4 months, we've continued to ask those questions. And I think that what we've now been presented with.
I have 2 babies now.
Somebody's mic is open.
Princess and oh shit.
I think what we've been presented with will deliver some much needed economic benefit to people who were impacted by COVID. But I think that this plan is rife with a tremendous number of problems that we've received only hopes and promises that they're going to be able to work their way through as opposed to an actual plan. I think there are security concerns about turning over sensitive information, tax returns, Social Security numbers. I think that there are a large number of residents who are never going to even apply for it, even though they would potentially be eligible to receive it because of those security concerns. I don't think there's a plan on the part of the administration to actually be able to get information out to residents. I don't think that there's a plan on the part of the administration to actually have a user-friendly way for people to be able to interact with whomever is administering this. so that they can get their applications in a timely fashion. And when you're talking about having to analyze 300,000, theoretically, tax returns, applications, do deed searches, look at bills to determine whether or not somebody is an actual homeowner or a primary head of household, that is a massive undertaking that we have demonstrated in a whole host of ways, not the least of which is this reassessment, that we just don't have the capacity to be able to do. And we can try and sort of put a Band-Aid over it by trying to go outside and have somebody else try and do it for us. But the information still has to be collected by us. And I have very little confidence that we're going to be able to do it, but the county executive says she can. Council tells us that the program meets criteria, even though, I don't see how the plan as it's currently presented actually makes any legitimate accommodation towards an actual demonstration of need related to COVID, which the rules clearly state. But, I don't want to be the one standing in the way of the handful of residents that will actually receive money that actually have a need, or any resident from receiving money. I don't want to be the person that stands in the way of doing that, because even though it's too little too late, it's at least something that's finally being done to try and help residents in some small way overcome the giant dumpster fire that the last 18 months have been for all of us. So I will be voting. I will be voting yes, but I have serious concerns, and I hope Deputy County Executive Helena Williams and County Executive Kern are ready to fulfill the promises that they've made today. I wish them luck.
Legislator Walker.
Yes, first I'd like to thank Mr. Denian and Mr. Sally for all the information that you've given us, and I'm sure, Mr. Sally, you much prefer when I was calling you about Planning Commission questions. It was much easier and much quicker. But again, thank you very, very much. I'm not going to reiterate what was already said. I do see the pros, and I also do see some of the cons in this what we're going to do. But for those that it's going to help, I'm sure anybody's happy to get a check in the mail, and they'll put it to good use. I do have a big concern for those who might not qualify at all, or who will not qualify at all, and some of those people are really, our residents that need it very badly. I also just want to also reiterate what Legislator Ford said. I understand that the cutoff is 2026, but we are in October of 2021. I would hope, as we look at this, that perhaps we give a cutoff earlier than, I know that's when, the program itself ends, but perhaps we give a year and a half, 2 years for people to apply, if you're going to do that, and then utilize that money to where it could, be needed tremendously throughout this county, whether it's still to businesses, whatever is determined, but, to wait till 2026 is a long time to have money that could be laying around and could be put to good use by many either residents or businesses or whatever is decided that it's used for. So I would like us to look at doing something like that. Okay, thank you, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, Legislator Birnbaum.
I too want to thank both of you, Mr. Connie and Mr. Denner, for your thorough answers to a lot of the questions that have been raised over the last couple of sessions. And we know that this is a household assistance program. That's what it's called. So what better way to help households? We're helping homeowners, we're helping legal renters, and people who have been hurt by COVID. They do have to provide information, but that's the very reason why we're doing this, because we want to help people, and they have to prove that they were hurt by COVID. So by them giving the information that KPMG will be able to secure and have the access to, it's not going to be information disseminated throughout the county. It'll be in this portal. I feel that you have put a lot of mechanisms in place in order to provide the security we need, and this program should be operated efficiently, and the idea is to get the money out. So we know right away 42,000 households will be able to receive these checks in short order, and they need it. So we will be assisting households. This is a household assistance program. So I'm very proud as a Nassau County legislator to be here and to be able to say, yes, let's help people in our county. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, passes by a vote of 18-1. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Legislator Walker, seconded by Minority Leader Abrahams. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, we're adjourned.